You just signed your
Don't be
house
so
away.
nervous.
I'm trusting my administrator. Like I didn't
Trust me, man.
trust me, yeah.
With a smile.
We got two. Okay, we got
Is it getting
that.
dry out there already? Is it, or is it?
It's about there.
Is it?
Yes.
How's my hair
You
looking?
know, it hasn't been as, I mean, I know it's wet, but it hasn't been as wet as it could be for all the rain we've had.
Right. I can bring this beat, but I can bring it.
Because you got a sprayer that holds 2,000 gallons. You know what I mean?
2,000 gallons.
Is that recording the button? Here's taking photos.
That in very short.
Everything's pretty wet. The bug to an old sleeve.
Oh, my motorcycle and some big bugs.
Look like rain. Don't care.
They're not gonna melt.
Then the waters are in my own.
I'm a flying motorcycle rain and messing with their hair.
I'll tell you, I'm not comfortable.
His way the meeting was moved to 1. I told Jeff I must be careful. I had the meeting down for 1 o'clock already.
Maybe that was misunderstanding.
I had it down for 1. I don't.
Today it was,
What?
today was down for 1.
I had it down for 1. But they said it changed from 11 to 1.
No, not today.
Oh, that's next.
That's
next
6,
week.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh, right.
I see. I'm on the wrong page.
15th of August.
Right?
Yes, it's not today. That's not today.
Today.
That's why it's
Yeah, I don't care.
And what do you want? Our rural.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for the 60. You can say that in the meeting, that's it.
Yeah, you just stop here and just sit.
We don't need to be quiet yet. We got a couple minutes.
For those joining us, if you haven't signed in, I need everybody's name for the record and address. Legibly would be awesome.
No.
None. A lot of plates.
Lots of.
No, well, this was.
They see pictures of you.
Yeah, I photographed them.
You still feel like you were there and not tired of driving?
In the crowd.
You know, you don't get tired when you do that. That way,
And I-
you trip, you get right for 24
and I saved a lot of
hours,
money.
just say I was there.
Mine says 9. That was bomb. Please stand with me for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Morning.
All right. Approval of county board minutes. Movement.
I was second.
I got a motion second. Any more discussion? Not those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Any additions or deletions?
Yes, we did add public health. It's only 9 items. The only change.
All right, we got that. All right. I got a motion from
Second.
Commissioner Wilson, second Commissioner Delancey. Any discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I just want to bring one thing to everyone's attention. As we're moving forward, we have a lot on the plate, which is great to see people here and everything, that I'll be asking for a motion and a second before discussion. We understand that doesn't mean that they're for or against, it's just that we need a discussion. If I don't get a motion or a second, we're gonna move on to the next agenda, so just to let you know that, so. All right, we have a public hearing,
We do, we're going to address a request from Central Minnesota Renewable, and I believe we have representatives here.
please come up.
You could come up. And they'll give a short background about why we're here and what the request is.
We need another chair possibly.
One more here, one up here. I'll take one next. Thank you.
If you can state your name, and good morning.
Good morning, I'm Larry Albuquerque, representing Central Minnesota Renewables.
I'm Jonathan Homestead, also representing Central Minnesota Renewables.
My name's Al Ashton, professional engineer with the NES Consultant, representing Central Minnesota Renewables.
All right, good
Just
morning.
just a request, if I could, and what is your position with the company, would be my question.
I'm the controller.
Okay,
And I'm the Director of Administration.
all right, and you're a consultant, okay, very good, just, and as a controller.
Financial
Oh, very
manager.
good, very good, thank you, just so that I'm aware of what.
Steve, your floor. If you may.
I think, Mr. Chairman, we'd ask
Larry or Jonathan to make a short presentation, then we'll move into the staff reports in consideration of the resolution that's in your packet.
All right.
I won't take a lot of your time. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. We're here today to ask for a variance from the county solid waste, industrial waste ordinance. New process out the former ethanol plant will continue to use corn and other natural ingredients to ferment a bio-based chemical. As is part of this process, again, they're all natural enzymes, bacteria, things that are found in our environment. As part of the byproduct from the corn and processing, we'll be preparing or making a product that'll be has been approved by the MPCA to be land applied as a high-quality fertilizer. Very rich in nitrogen, phosphorus, potash, zinc, all things that corn farmers need in our area. This process is again, as I said, all natural, slightly different than we had earlier, previously at the ethanol plant. We've gone through significant effort with the MPCA over the last probably 6 to 7 months in terms of identifying how we make it, what it is, how we're going to manage application of it, how we're going to store it, how we're going to transfer it, and so on. We became recently aware about 2 months ago through the county that this product is subject to your ordinance, and we're asking for a variance on a handful of the items because this isn't your typical landfill. It's a liquid product that will be land applied and incorporated, and is not fall under many of the items don't fall under the general categories under which ordinance has governance over. Just a little history. We'll continue to buy corn from our local farmers. Very important. We've added nearly 25 jobs out at the site. We've been attacking member of the community here for we're third employees for 15 or 16 years, and certainly this plant is going to be the first of its kind in the world. So there's potential here for additional people being hired as well as possible future expansion. So again, we're asking, like I said, for a variance on a handful of items in the ordinance that really deal with the kind of the operation of the facilities.
Mr. Chairman, member of the board, I have a question, and you said this is the first plant in the world, okay? I guess that's really not true because you had a smaller plant that went through the whole process.
Yeah, it was this first commercial plant.
Very good. So I wanted to make that very clear to the public, that this process has been processed through a smaller dynamic and then second larger dynamic, so byproducts of that have been looked at and researched. Just
Correct.
to clarify.
This process was in place in around the world from about 1915 through about 1950. Natural process creates products. When oil became cheap in the 50s, today these products we're going to produce are still from oil, and they carry certain things that are some harmful to the environment that our product won't. So it isn't a process. It's the first commercialization process or project like it in about 60 years.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, then, in accordance with our ordinance, the Public Works Department is tasked with reviewing license applications and other materials for regulating solid waste activities. Certainly our solid waste ordinance and solid waste management plan were written around mixed municipal solid waste and industrial solid waste. This is kind of something that falls in between as an industrial byproduct. The overview that Central Minnesota Renewables, they create this mash. Bacteria is introduced that produce the chemical that Larry discussed, that distilled off, and it's distilled off at very high temperatures. Bacteria is killed, and then you create biomass that needs to be disposed of. Central Minnesota Renewables made contact late last year with the landfill, and we evaluated those materials on whether they could be accepted at our facility, which really is driven by our ordinance. The materials have the high nitrogen nutrient level that results in that it blows the system. We don't have enough acreage in our land application sites to be able to bring in the amount of material that will be generated by the facility. And so they move forward with trying to find an alternative method of disposal of that material, which was to try to find a beneficial use. And what they have come forward with is the land application of that, and have gone through a pretty extensive, very extensive, I'm sure they would say, a process with Minnesota Pollution Control Agency in a permit for them to be able to do that. They have been and have received authorization and notice of coverage under the general permit of the MPCA, and that came through last week. I've reviewed the application that they have made, and we have a number of items that we'll have to take action on in order for them to be able to do what they want to do, which is once the fermented biosolids are created, they'll be transported by solid waste hauler, who is also going to be a private contractor, to 2 sites we will license, 2 existing mineral pit that we will license, and then eventually when the conditions are right and they have enough material, it would be land applied. They intend in the future to construct an additional storage basin that will have to also be licensed, but once variances are approved, those variances would continue to apply even though they move to the new storage basin. We've reviewed those applications. Believe that, in my opinion, that what is being proposed here is in compliance and consistent with the Morrison County Solid Waste Management Plan. They, in the end, will, in terms of dry solids, will keep nearly 6,000 tons of material out of the Morrison County landfill, which is a goal, is to try to keep materials out of our landfill. They are currently current on property taxes, they paid all their fees, we're able to find any indication that there was any taxes that have not been paid, which is a requirement of ordinance. They have provided us with a $50,000 bond, which is a requirement of the ordinance. If something happened at either one of the sites that would be licensed, we'd be able to have some funds to be able to do what we need to close those off. They've complied and provided their certificate of insurance. And so we are ready then, in our opinion, to consider the variance requests, which are items within our ordinance that either don't make sense or we're putting there not for or for different reasons than applying this type of application, what they're proposing. And so the attached resolution that was included in your packet, I'd like to go through and take a little bit of time. The number of whereases essentially is to justify that what they're doing is in compliance with the Morrison County Solid Waste Management Plan. We move into general provisions that are being requested to vary from. No landowner or other person shall cause, permit, or allow their land or property, public or private, to be used for disposal of any solid waste except in an operation that meets the following requirements. And go through the operation is licensed by Morrison County Board, or number 3.3, no landowner or other person shall cause, permit, or allow the land to be used for burial of solid waste or demolition debris except in a facility licensed by the Morrison County Board of Commissioners pursuant to this ordinance unless otherwise allowed by state statutes and rules. We wish to allow Central Minnesota Renewables to land apply fermented biosolids and not require every landowner to come through and have to license their sites. And so this provision would be varied due to economic unreasonableness and undue hardship to allow these properties to have fermented biosolids land applied to them without them obtaining a license from the county every time. Section 5, solid waste storage. All other solid waste shall be stored in durable, watertight, odor-proof containers and shall not be stored for over 30 days. This would allow the use of the manure storage pits, and it would also allow them to store that in those pits for over 30 days. Section 6, collection and transportation of solid waste. No person shall transport or dispose of or final dispose of solid waste generated or accumulated in Morrison County at any location other than the Morrison County Solid Waste Management Facility, permit number SW15, or disposal or final disposal facility outside the state of Minnesota. The outside the state of Minnesota is a section that is placed in there so we don't interfere with interstate commerce. Item 1 really was driven by the fact that once we invested the monies that we invested in our landfill for cleanup and construction of the state-of-the-art facility, we needed to be able to support financially that infrastructure. In this situation, we have materials that have alternative beneficial use that really do not need to end up going into the landfill. And number 1, we could not accept it because of the high nutrient levels. And number 2, because of the amount of free moisture, our permit would also not allow us to take that amount of free liquids. Any current subtype of the landfill would not be able to accept that material. And so the variance would allow the provisions of this, the CR would be exempt from these provisions, and all of these are tied to compliance with the Minnesota Pollution Control General Permit 96,000. 96,000, 96,000. Solid waste service fee states, Section 8, a solid waste service fee shall be imposed on all solid waste generated within the county. We're requesting variance from this. The solid waste service fee was meant to apply to solid waste that was disposed at our landfill. It was meant to support cleanup that was generated by mixed municipal solid waste and industrial solid waste that had previously gone into the landfill. This material never went to the landfill and actually has the beneficial use and not going into it. So the request is that it get vary for the solid waste service fee. Make them exempt from that. Section 9, general provisions. There are a number of items in here that just don't make sense to apply for what they're wanting to do, such as household hazardous abatement plan. You're not going to generate household hazardous waste. A mercury abatement plan. They don't generate mercury. Not accepting mercury. Leachate management. It's not leachate in the sense that you have precipitation moving through garbage. They're asking that other operational procedures be varied from, such as on-site facilities for employees, certain maintenance and storage equipment, potable water supply, since they're not going to have employees at the site. Also posting a sign at the entrance stating who can use it and it's open to the public since it's not open to the public. And submit monthly report to the department. We will submit notifications to the department when they're land applying some material to individual properties that will be part of the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency's permit. And so we are proposing to ask that they can vary and be exempt from these items listed. And so the resolve of this, Mr. Chairman, would be that the board would agree to grant variances as listed in this resolution. The variance expires on August 9, 2018. The ordinance allows variance for 2 years unless it's revoked in accordance with the ordinance, which if there's a belief that there is harm to public health, safety, the board can call a hearing, you could revoke the variance. And so that is what's being proposed. That's what we're being asked of the public to comment on before consideration of it.
Okay. Deb, do you have anything else to add?
I do not.
Okay, so we'll be having a public hearing comment on it. Are we gonna do each one individually, because we have a resolution and a motion here? So we just put them all together for comment, is that what we wanna do?
Well, your ultimate request is going to be to consider the resolution that's here. The public comment and public hearing process is relevant to the entire application. So,
Okay.
at this point in time, you would want to consider public comment.
Okay, all right, and then what I'll do, I'll ask 3 times for anyone that's for or against, we'll open up the public hearing. And I'd appreciate maybe 3 minutes or less, if we can go from there. So it is now 9:15, and I'll open up this for public comment. Anyone for or against? Please stand, state your name, please.
Have you used this or
I'm Kurt, I'm from Fort Ripley, and we checked into this product to the ethanol plant for Central Minnesota Renewables, and we thought it would be a great fertilizer source for us because it's very safe, it's low on salt, and be a real safe product to use for crops. And seeing as how in our area, we don't have a lot of hog barns or chicken, turkey barns, et cetera, manure isn't there isn't a lot of manure sources around our area, so this would actually work out real well for us. So we're pretty excited about it.
All right, thank you. All right, anyone else for or against? That'll be the first time. I'll ask again the second time. Anyone else in the public hearing for or against?
I'm for it, absolutely. I think it's a great product to go out there. One question I would have, Steve, was the 30-day supply in the wintertime if you couldn't store it, how is it going to be handled?
And we will answer that question once the public hearing, but I appreciate the question, thank you. Anyone else want to speak for or against? We'll start all over, that was the first time. Anyone else that wants to speak for or against? Last time. Anyone else want to speak for or against? If not, we'll close the public hearing at 9:17. Gentlemen, you had a question?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, the ordinance states that you can store for 3 days. The variance will allow them to store up to 1 year.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I did not receive any public comment, nor did the Public Works Department any written correspondence. So I don't have anything to report on that.
Okay, well, for discussion, I would like to have a motion to authorize the resolution approving Central Minnesota renewable variance from the Morrison County Solid Waste Ordinance for facility operations.
Also move, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion, I need a second. Any more discussion, gentlemen?
Well, Mr. Chair, I think this request for the variance is very clearly because of the inability to store this liquid product. And I think the gentleman here looking at, in the future, looking at a drying process, which at this point is very, very costly. So to get up and running, at some point, they may be drying this for dispersal or ever. So maybe you want one of the gentlemen here to explain that process.
Sure.
It probably be for the group as well, because it still doesn't change, you know, you dry it, it would not change the basic properties. And still need a land approval permit to apply it. The one thing that we are attempting to do is to get this approved, once we begin operating and have a sample, that we can show the Department of Agriculture what the product is, how it works, and its benefits, is to get it reclassified as from an industrial waste to a beneficial use product. And if when that happens, we hope it happens within the next year, no longer will be subject to the MPCA or the county ordinance, because it's no longer an industrial waste product, but a beneficial use product. It should be governed by the Department of Agriculture. They recognize the value against us, high fertilizer. So that's kind of, could be wet or dry, that's the longer-term plan for this product.
Thank you.
Any more discussion, gentlemen?
Mr. Chair, I would just like to comment that there are several issues here. One, it's jobs to the community, which the ethanol plant Central Minnesota has continued to provide jobs, and in fact has increased with what we're doing now today, increased our jobs. What we're talking about is, and I believe Larry, you said it, high-quality manure.
Basically what it is.
And that's what we're talking about. Just because the makeup has that industrial thing behind it or in front of it. But as far as the end result product is high-quality manure, and I think it's just a win-win all the way around.
Any more discussion, gentlemen?
Mr. Chair, we have met on this issue 2 times already, and we've answered a lot of our questions. So it's not like it was just presented to us today. So,
Commissioner Johnson?
One question for Larry. Larry, how many employees do you have out right now? About
Our last payroll run, which was as of yesterday, we had 52. Up from 30 when we were just operating as an additional ethanol plant.
All right.
Thank you.
You brought up corn, and again, transportation for the farmers, especially transportation, it's expensive, so if we can be selling it locally, I think that's a great thing, you know, because again, these you know, I don't know, the dollar figures to transport out of the county, out of the area, again, keeping it here, keeping it local for the farmers, I think is a great thing, so.
Mr. Chairman, just one other thing, you know, look at the previous process by which these products were made, this from oil, gas, okay? And this is a new product that comes from corn, and it's very positive and good for the environment. When we can remove something that's made from an oil-based product to this, so very positive. So, thank
So,
you.
John, Al, anything to add at all? Okay, all right, then, we heard, public hearing comment. I have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, now that the variance is in place, there's some other actions we're going to be asking you for. The first will be to establish the amount of the bond for assurance that if something were to happen to Central Minnesota Renewables, the county would have some funding to close sites that we may, which we are requesting to be approved as transfer stations. And the amount of that bond would be $50,000. It would apply in combination to the two that we're going to license now. They are temporary ones. The permanent basin is instructed. We'd be requesting you to transfer that to the permanent basin.
Gentlemen, for discussion, I need a motion, a second, to authorize the resolution to establish the bond for Central Minnesota Renewable Solid Waste Transportation has met the requirements of the Morrison County Solid Waste Ordinance. I have a motion and a second. Commissioner Mauer, Commissioner Zelinski seconded, right? Wilson, okay. All right, there we go. All right, any discussion?
Well, Mr. Chair, I think the board felt it necessary to be sure that if something happened or if the plant were to shut down and these ponds would be there, that we needed some assurance that we would have the financial ability to clean those up. So that's what this is about.
Any more discussion, gentlemen? All right. If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Central Minnesota Renewables have made an application for 2 licenses to operate transfer stations. The first one being considered is on Greg Adamick property, northwest quarter of Section 6, Township 130 North, Range 30 West. We reviewed their application. We found that it's complete. The pit has been inspected by Mr. Larson, found a professional engineer certified to the Pollution Control Agency that the pits are intact and in good order. They also inspected by the feedlot officer from Morrison County. They signed off on the transfer of manure storage pit to an industrial byproduct. And so it's our recommendation that the board would authorize this license so that they can utilize that pit to store these amended rock solids.
All right, gentlemen, for more discussion, I need a motion to authorize the solid waste transfer station licenses for Central Minnesota Renewables. I have a motion. So moved. From Commissioner Johnson, second. Commissioner Mauer. Any more discussion, gentlemen? If not,
Mr. Chair, I would just like to ask Al a question.
go right in.
We're talking about a manure storage pit, and that's really what we're talking about. Is this the same type of pit, if you could explain, please? As if it was a dairy or a hog operation, how that pit's constructed, that it's not gonna leak and all that kind of stuff?
Both of the pits that are under consideration were designed and operated as manure storage. Both of them were for dairy manure. One was used for some swine manure mixed application. The adamantite hasn't been used for manure storage for a while, but it was full this spring before it was empty and landslide accordingly. And when I evaluated it, I was pretty impressed by the floor, the shape of that floor. The control joints, which aren't required, but this particular structure that were in place, not a crack in the floor. Very impressive. Okay. And the pad structure was in good condition.
Any more discussion, gentlemen? Not, I have a motion and a second on the floor. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we have a second application for a transfer station located at 17108 235th Avenue, Pierce, Minnesota. A property owned by Darrell Sayre. That would be the northwest quarter, Section 29, Township 41 North, Range 30 West. Their application is complete and similar to the previous application. It's been inspected by a professional engineer, been inspected by the county feedlot officer. Transfer from manure storage pit to industrial byproduct storage was submitted to the agency. Agency to approve that. So our recommendation that you authorize a license for the use of this pit for industrial byproduct.
Gentlemen, I have a motion to authorize solid waste transfer station for the proposed site. I have a motion from Commissioner Wilson.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Johnson. Any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, also included in the pack was a solid waste hauler's license for Riverbend Acres Incorporated. They've submitted their information and met the requirements of the ordinance, and so we were recommending that the board would authorize solid waste hauler's license to Riverbend Acres.
Gentlemen, I need a motion to authorize the 2016 solid